Good morning, good afternoon here locally. Good evening, maybe? I don't know. People watch from all over the world, the Dice Tower, and so you could be anywhere. I don't want to make assumptions. And if that music doesn't get you hyped up, I don't know what will. Hey, everybody. Mike DiLisio here for a Q&A, and got the old man specs happening, so feeling pretty good about things. And you know what? I like a good contest. Do you like a good contest? Who doesn't like a good contest? Well, I'm sure there are some people out there, but I like a good contest. And so I would like to offer you, well, not me, Game Nerds would like to offer you a $10 gift certificate for their fantastic store, and you can go check out GameNerds.com, and they have a lot of fantastic games in stock. And this is for a $10 gift certificate to Game Nerds. And so all you have to do to be eligible to win this is email us at contest@dicetower.com. In the subject line, put the word truffle. Truffle. And answer the following question. What is your favorite chocolate candy? Now, the reason why I chose that question is that truffles have multiple meanings as far as I'm aware of, is that you can have truffles being a type of fungus, right? I think, maybe, kind of like a mushroom. But you can also have truffles that are, chocolate confections. And I'm not a fan of mushrooms. I am on the record. I have stated it very clearly that I'm not a fan of mushrooms. Let me make sure that everything is looking okay. I don't see anything for saying that my sound or audio is bad, so I'm going to assume that that's good. But anyway, sticking with this contest, email us, subject truffle, answer what your favorite chocolate candy is, and perhaps you, yes you, can win a $10 gift certificate to Game Nerds. Well, that is taken care of now, and good luck to each and every one of you, although only one of you is going to win. So it's lovely to be here. It's a Monday morning. It is the beginning of May, which from what I can gather from my online research, and let me tell you something, I do a lot of online research. There are a lot of people that are very surprised. They feel like May has kind of crept up on them, and I would count myself in that crowd. I'm very surprised it's already May, but hey, it's ever onward. So I'm very much looking forward to checking out your fantastic questions and chilling with y'all for about an hour or so. And so let's get into it. I'm going to scroll back, and I will, as always, have a low level of anxiety that I'm not going to get to all the questions. So let's just assume I will not. Let's see if I can find the first question that Jason Dunham asks, Mike, does the amount of fanaticism you elicit and the adoration you receive sometimes scare you? Sometimes, maybe, perhaps. Yeah, I don't know. Jason, you are always very, very effusive in your praise, and it's very much appreciated. Thank you for all of the kind words that you say, even if sometimes they may be even a little too effusive. Look, I mean, some might say, I don't know, I would, but some might say that you are even too effusive. What's up, Joe? What's up, CBS Inc.? Bruce asks, with Azul Queen's Garden releasing stateside, did your love for original Azul dwindle even more? Now, I'm wondering if this is a bit of a jest on your part, Bruce, because I have been very, very outspoken, I suppose, saying that I am very much a fan of the first Azul, and I don't really have much interest in the later iterations of it, because when I'm looking for, I guess what I'm looking for out of that game is the simplicity and the elegance, and a lot of people have been talking about how elegant is not a good word to use. I'm going to continue to use it. I'm looking for a pretty stripped down experience. And that's what I like about Azul. I like that it is very straightforward, very easy to teach, but still has some nice decisions. And I felt like the later ones, to me, in my opinion, kind of moved away from the core experience. And so I've joked many times that, what have I said? I don't remember. Something along the lines of, the fact that this game exists makes me like Azul more or less or whatever. I don't even remember what nonsense I said, but I will tell you, I did play Queen's Garden recently with Tom. And while I appreciate that it is a clever design, I'm not going to be doing a full review of it. I might put it in a rapid fire. Actually, I likely will put it in a rapid fire roundup, but I'll give you a little bit of a sneak peek. I do not like it anywhere near as much as the original Azul. I felt like it was much more complex, much more head down, focusing on your own board. It didn't have the kind of the snappiness that I like about Azul. And then I noticed that at the end of the game, I believe I'd only ended up putting out like maybe 10 total tiles on my board. Now, that could be variable because, you know, you can take different numbers of tiles, but it wasn't as satisfying to me. Although I felt like it was clever, it wasn't as satisfying to me. So, there you go. Blake asks, do you really have answers? Well, look, Blake, do any of us really have answers? I feel like this is a philosophical debate that we're going to be having here. I have answers. Will they be satisfying answers? Will they be serious answers? Will they get to the heart of the question? Am I answering a question that's not even being asked, Blake? I don't know. All of these are questions that demand answers, and unfortunately, I cannot give them to you. Mason asks, Mike, how many times in your life have you wondered how much you'd weigh if you had bird bones? Once, right now. Never thought about that before. I imagine I would be significantly lighter, but also significantly more fragile, I would think. I'm not sure I would change or trade the weight for fragility. Okay. Nick is asking me what the best thing I ate this weekend was. Oh, I think I can answer that. Can we count Friday as the weekend? Can we do that? If we can count Friday as the weekend. Wait, did I do this on? No, it wasn't Friday. It was Saturday. We could definitely count that as the weekend. Am I right? Saturday, my wife and I, Tiffany, went to go see the film The Northman. But beforehand, we went to a Mexican restaurant here in Homestead and got a fantastic Texas Chipotle burrito. That was quite tasty. It was a chicken burrito with, as you might expect, Chipotle sauce over the top. Quite good. Quite good. Let's see. Much Procrastinate asks, hey Mike, I watched your Ninja Catfoot review. I know you thought that game was pretty meh. Any Japanese gems that you would actually recommend? Well, yeah, that game didn't work as well for me. It was kind of a novelty game, and it was cute, but it didn't have any lasting staying power in my mind. But there's a lot of Japanese games that I think are fantastic. I mean, sticking with that same publisher, Oink Games, there's a number of Oink games that I like quite a bit. Insider and Deep Sea Adventure, or the new implementation, Moon Adventure, which I actually like a little more. That makes it a cooperative game. I think those are really good. Startups, also from Oink, so I'm just naming some Oink games. And then outside of that, one of my favorite games of the last year was called Aqua Garden. And that's a Japanese publisher, a really, really good game. Sashi and Sashi puts out some fantastic games. Let's Make a Bus Route. Let's Make a Bus Route, the dice game. Remember Our Trip. In Front of the Elevators. So Sashi and Sashi has a lot of games I like, a whole lot. Hobby Japan has one of my top 100 games called Master of Respect. So yeah, a lot of Japanese games that I think are really good that I would easily recommend. Chad Verdon asks, what is your favorite sitcom currently and all time? I'm not watching a lot of current sitcoms, if I'm being honest. And I like to think I'm being honest. that's a crutch for me. I use that phrase all the time, to be honest, if I'm being honest. I need to work on that. I don't like, but it's just a crutch. It's one of those vocal things that you lean on. All time is easy. For me, it's Seinfeld. I am a huge Seinfeld fan, and I think a lot of my humor and sensibilities are kind of reflected in that show. So maybe currently, this is a little bit of a cheat, but the only thing I can think of that I'm watching currently that's a new sitcom would be Curb Your Enthusiasm, which is basically like Seinfeld 2.0. The same, one of the co-designer or the co-developer, the co-creator of Seinfeld, Larry David, has created his own show called Curb Your Enthusiasm, which is very much like Seinfeld, but a bit more risque and because it's on HBO, but it still has a very similar comic sensibility. So. Bell in the City. Hi, Mike. Would love to know a little about your board game history. Did you play board games as a kid? How did you discover designer board games? I have addressed this in other Q&As, not to take anything away from your question, of course, but just I won't go into too much detail because for people that may have heard. But the short answer is that gaming was a small part, of my life growing up. It certainly wasn't completely foreign to my family, but it was mostly mass market games, as you might expect, kind of the usual suspects. The one thing is that I would go to my grandmother's house. The whole family usually would go to my grandmother's house, and we would tend to play games there. And the big card game we would play is Pinochle, and I remember feeling really proud when I was old enough to be able to sit at the regular table and play Pinochle with everybody. That was really fun. And then I was completely out of the loop of modern hobby board gaming. I didn't know it existed. I did a little bit of D&D in high school, very little bit, dabbled in that. But it was really only when I was an adult, and the gateway for me was Catan. And I was introduced to Catan and was blown away, and very quickly went into down that rabbit hole. Went to a local game store. The first game I bought, I remember, was Lost Cities, the two-player Reiner Knizia card game, and discovered BGG, Board Game Geek. And really, since then, it's just been a progression of kind of just not only appreciating the great designs that have been around, but discovering new ones as well. And I've, again, been on the record that I'm very much a cult of the new gamer, for better or for worse. So I like the discovery of new games, but I still also appreciate what came before. So there's hopefully a good answer. Short, but hopefully answers what you're looking for. Dan asks, who from Board Game Barrage needs to answer for using Tom's endorsement for their podcast? I have a sneaking suspicion. That Kellen, the red tank from Board Game Barrage, is likely responsible. Tom, I think, might have mentioned them in passing when he was a guest on our Sporadically Bored podcast that Dan Hughes and myself do. That sounds very much like a Kellen move for me. RSC Steve, hi Mike, can you recommend a solo push your luck card game? I like Oh My Good. So here's what I'm going to do for you. I will, but I hope that you're okay with me mentioning a game that you need the expansion to play it solo. And the reason why I'm picking this one is A, because it's a fantastic push your luck card game, and it's by the same designer of Oh My Good, Alexander Pfister. So if you get Port Royal and the One More Contract expansion, you can play that game solo, and I like that a lot. It's a pretty pure push your luck game, and if you like Oh My Goods, I think it's likely that you would like Port Royal. They're very different games. Port Royal is much simpler. It really is very cut and dry push your luck, but it's fun. It's really good. So that's one I would recommend. And even with the expansion, it's not going to be terribly expensive, I would think, because they're relatively small box games. They're certainly not Ticket to Ride size. That's refreshing. I like Loopy here in the chat is giving us some solid information about chocolate truffles. I appreciate that. You got my back there, Loopy. Thank you. Tyler asks, do you like the Kaman trilogy or Simon trilogy? And if so, which is your favorite? I'm going to assume you mean the Eric Lang trilogy of Blood Rage, Rising Sun, and Ankh. Do I like that? I like all three games. So the answer is yes. My favorite is probably still Blood Rage. Ankh, I have an appreciation for it as a design. It's not a game that I have found myself going back to very much once we got through the plays from the review. I probably like it best as a two-player game, like Z in that way. And Rising Sun, I think, is really good too. My issue with Rising Sun is that that's one that I think really shines at larger player counts, and so getting a group together to play that is a little bit more challenging. I also don't know that I think that the negotiation really is really there. I mean, it's kind of there, but I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not convinced. I do think that the battle system is really, really smart. So I think all three games are really good, solid designs. But Blood Rage is the one that I'd be most likely to want to play next. Zodtan, have you played the solo mode of Euthea? Unfortunately, I have not, so I can't give you the thoughts on that one. I have not seen that, or I've not played it. I've looked a little bit at it, but I have not played it. Sorry, I can't help you out there. Eric Silva asks, hello, Mike. When you joined the Dice Tower, did you have any prior video editing skills? And if not, how did you find learning all the video editing software? So the short answer is I had a little bit of video editing skills. Really, what skills I had was just basically messing around with iMovie, which is what I did when I was shooting my solo playthroughs and doing segments for the Dice Tower Board Game Breakfast. So before I was working full-time for the Dice Tower, I was doing segments for a couple of years for Board Game Breakfast. And so I had a Mac and I had iMovie that was preloaded onto it, so that's what I used. I probably would, maybe even, it might be too much to say I was novice level at it. I was able to figure out basically what I wanted to do. I was never very flashy in my video editing skills. I would probably say I'm still not very flashy in my video editing skills, and working with people that have much more of a background, so Roy and Chris, who I think are both very gifted at the video editing part of this job, it's been helpful to kind of have them to ask questions and lean on a little bit and kind of gather their expertise and get their advice on things and collaborate with them. I will say that when I was talking with Tom originally about this position, I was very upfront with him that the video editing part was probably not going to be my strongest suit. I didn't have a lot of background in it. I've tried to learn, and I think I've gotten better over time. I think anything that you do over time, you're going to get better at. But I don't know that it's something that I have any kind of a gift for or an affinity for. I think some people are gifted and also work really hard at it. But I don't think I've got a natural gift for it. It's something that I appreciate. When I see people that are really good at it, I appreciate that skill. So I did not have much. All right, I'm gonna try to go more quickly here. Matthew asks, what are your thoughts on Glenmore 2? Have you played the Automa Factory solo from the expansion? I think Glenmore 2 is fantastic. It's in my top 100 games of all time as of last year because I had not played it before then. I played the original Glenmore many years ago, but I think Glenmore 2 is great, and I have played the solo from the Automa Factory. It's really good. really good. I like it a lot. And please, anybody, if I miss your question, I apologize. I am trying to go relatively quickly. Angela, hey Mike, did you play any board games over this past weekend? This was a very light gaming weekend for me. The only game that I played, I believe, was I played Mind Management solo using the app. They have a free app, and so that has been a game that I really, really like. It's interesting. Somebody had asked on, I don't remember if it was on my Facebook post when I posted that I played it, or if it was somewhere else, but someone had asked me, hey, I watched your Foursquare's video of Mind Management, and at the time you gave it a 7.5. And it seems like you like it a lot more, and what has changed, that type of a thing. And so it's true. It's a game that when I first played it, I thought it was pretty cool. But I was going into it with a mindset of, I'm not really a big hidden movement fan. I haven't had a lot of hidden movement games that have worked well for me. Probably before Mind Management, the game that I liked the most in that genre was Letters from Whitechapel. I did not like Fury of Dracula. I have not played Spectre Op, so I can't speak to that one, but I had bounced off of more than I had really liked. And so Mind Management kind of took me back. I'm like, yeah, this is pretty good. And then the more and more that I played it, I was like, this is more than pretty good. This is really fantastic. And then the more I taught it to people and learned some more of the nuances and kind of the little, I don't know, just the aspects of the game that weren't readily apparent to me, as far as like different ways that you can manipulate potentially other players if you're playing as the recruit, or even if you're playing as the rogue agent. You can do little kind of head fakes to make people think you're doing something when you really have something else in mind. And I think that this is a game that gets out of its own way. It's a pretty simple rule set. Actually, it's a quite simple rule set. And it just gets down to the meat of the game, which is this kind of cat and mouse. And it does some really clever little things with being able to kind of manipulate how you are moving about this board. So that's all I played this weekend. I think the app does a really good job of allowing you to play it solo. So that was fun. I had other plans. I was hoping to play more solo, or not just solo. I was hoping to play more games this weekend, and it didn't just work out. The Schleppo asks, what is your favorite live concert you ever attended? This is really a difficult question. I don't think I'm going to be able to narrow it down to one. There was a particular time in my life, in my mid-20s, I would say, low to mid-20s, when I was living in Northern California, specifically in Santa Cruz. And I was working at a music store, and there was a Ticketmaster. We were a Ticketmaster location. And so it was just an era where almost all of the bands that were touring that I wanted to see came into this general area. Either they came, not always to Santa Cruz, because that's a relatively small town, although some really good bands did go to Santa Cruz, but almost all of them went to San Francisco or to San Jose, but usually to San Francisco. And so I saw so many fantastic shows in and around the Bay Area during that time period that it's hard to, but some that that kind of stick to my mind. I saw Sugar, which is a band that's led by Bob Mould, who was part of Husker Du. I saw them a couple of times, some of the best shows I've ever seen. I saw Sonic Youth on the, I think they were touring around the album Dirty. That was a fantastic show. This is really hard for me. This is so hard for me. I saw the Red Hot Chili Peppers do a New Year's Eve show at the Cow Palace in San Jose, where the opening two bands were barely anybody knew them at the time, but the opening two bands were Pearl Jam and Nirvana. So the headliners were the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Pearl Jam actually was first, then it was Nirvana, and then it was the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And if I remember right, the Jeremy video from Pearl Jam had just come out. So I knew about Pearl Jam a little bit. I knew Nirvana because I actually had listened to them from Bleach, that album before, Nevermind, the Breakout album, and I was a big fan of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. So that sticks to my mind. Seeing the Ramones live, being able to see them while they were still around is a lot of great concerts that I've been to, and there's many I've forgotten, or I'm forgetting about bringing up. Does anyone plan on putting out a review of Tiny Epic Dungeons? The short answer is yes. I believe Roy is going to be doing that one. We've both played that, and I think that Roy is going to be doing that one. I don't know exactly when. Loopy asks, Mike, how much impact do you think the current shipping crisis is going to have on the board game industry and crowdfunding? Well, first of all, I don't have a lot of insider information about this. I think we're already seeing the impact, is the short answer here. I think that it already is having an impact on the board game industry and on crowdfunding. My gut says that perhaps there will be more of a push, maybe a what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe a response to these big epic boxes that we've been getting. So, for the last couple of years at least, maybe even longer than that, the trend in crowdfunding projects has been big piles of boxes, right? And it's not just CMON, it's across the board. You see these pledges where, you're going to be getting just crates of boxes, it seems like. That's going to cost a lot of money to ship. Are we going to have a response where now publishers are going to be much more careful about the volume that they are offering because it's going to be less impactful on the shipping end of things? I don't know. But we're already seeing it. We're in the midst of it right now. And could it get more impactful? Perhaps. But I also think that publishers are going to have to be adept at pivoting and kind of figuring out. I think many of them are already. The bottom line is, to stay profitable, you have to react to what's happening in the market. And right now, what's happening in the market is consumers are very concerned about the amount of money that is going into shipping and how that's going to impact what they choose to put their money behind. And here I said I was going to go quick, and I have not. I've been blathering on and on. Todd, Mike, what is the game with the longest playtime that you like? Can I cheat and say Sleeping Gods? I think campaign-style games there, but I bet you're asking a different question. Single session game with the longest playtime that I like? This is a tough one. I'm struggling to think of something right off the top of my head. I don't know. It's tough. Sorry, I can't think of something right off the top of my head. Let me answer it this way. Usually, if it's more than 2.5 hours, I'm starting to feel it and going, ugh, this is too much. Maybe some of the Mind Clash games. Anachrony is one. Spirit Island, depending on the number of people you're playing with, can be long. I like that. There's a couple. I want to answer this question about graying beards, but I will not. Nick Markley. Mike, being that you're Italian, are you able to answer a question without moving your hands and with just one word? It's hard to say, Nick. I'd like to think I could, but it's difficult. It's difficult because, it's just, there's so much more to language than words. The expression. So there's a whole thing in here about truffles, and the reason why truffle is the keyword for our contest is because it is National Truffle Day. Okay, and I think that I guessed that was the case. It doesn't change my question because I don't like mushrooms. Okay. Hey Mike, I'm curious how it works with you guys doing duplicate reviews. If someone has already left a review for a game, do you have to petition Tom and hope that he is feeling charitable? I don't think it has anything to do with Tom feeling charitable or not. I think it's a matter of, I think that this is really a Tom question, but I'll do my best to kind of give you my guess. My guess is that Tom is not necessarily looking to have very many multiple reviews on this single channel. You know, from time to time, we will have games that have reviews from multiple voices, especially when you consider some of the contributors to the channel that are not working here in the studio, like Brian Drake and Graham Anderson and things along those lines. So that's much more common, where you might have outside contributors doing reviews that we've also done and vice versa. Here in the studio, I think that we just tend to, there's so many games that we cover that I just don't think that we put the bandwidth into that. It doesn't happen very often. You know, we have the Foursquare reviews that we'll do for games that you know, and there's a number of reasons why those games are chosen by Tom to be Foursquare reviews titles. But then you're going to get multiple voices there. What we've tried, I think, to do now here more recently is we'll do our rapid fire roundups so that you can get other voices that aren't giving full reviews. So we've been doing these for a while now, rapid fire roundup, where we'll go over 9, 10, 11 titles briefly, you know, or as brief as I can be anyway, where we give our opinions of these games. We don't give them full number ratings usually. We just kind of tell you what we think about them, games that other people have reviewed. This is a really good question. What would you usually do when students were making fun of each other in the classroom? So it depends on what you mean by making fun. I think that this is a pretty clear line. I think it's clear when you can poke fun, right? You can, you know, in a classroom setting, in a group setting, it doesn't matter. A little bit of healthy joking is fine. But there's a pretty clear delineation between something that is being done in silliness and kindness and not, you know, anything that's going to cause any real discomfort or harm or things along those lines. For that type of thing, it's important to establish very early on, I feel, what your expectations are. And I mean literally day one. Making it clear that you are paying attention as a teacher. You're listening as best as you can. You can't always see and hear everything that goes on. But that it's not something that you tolerate, that you're not going to allow somebody to make somebody uncomfortable in this space as much as you can. And I think also it goes beyond just setting those expectations. You have to model that behavior because, you know, it can happen where even as a teacher, you're poking a little bit of fun at somebody and you think that you're being innocuous, but that you really do kind of hit a chord with a particular student, with a kid who maybe has some insecurities that you're not even aware of. And so I found it's best to, as much as you can, you know, you can have a spirit of you know, joviality and being pleasant and everything, but you have to kind of establish really early on in a classroom that's not something you're going to tolerate. So. Jeremiah Custer asks, who from the A-team does your top 100 match with the most? I have not done a statistical analysis on this, Jeremiah, and I actually have not even I couldn't tell you because I haven't seen all of the top 100 from the A-team. So just as a reminder for anybody who's not aware of this, starting tomorrow, the A-team is going to be doing their top 100 games of all time. They're going to be doing it in multiple 10 segments because they're doing 10 at a time. And so I've been kind of putting together those PowerPoints and I'll be running those streams. And so I've seen at least the first half. I don't know that I want to answer it because I don't want to steal any of their thunder. This is a question that I would answer afterwards. But the short answer is I don't know. I have a sneaking suspicion, but I don't know. I don't know yet. But that would be fun to do, actually, to kind of see how many crossovers. Mark asks, would you like me to send you some black pudding? No, thank you. I tried it once. Angela, I have not watched Moon Knight yet. I'm hearing conflicting reports, although I won't allow that to color my opinions. What I will probably do is wait until it all runs. Maybe it already has, and then just binge it in a couple of days. Have any of the Dice Tower crew been to the Tokyo Game Show? I love Japanese trick takers and want to make it there one day. I don't think Tom or Z has, but I'm not positive about that. But I don't think they have. I would love to go to Tokyo Game Show. I'm with you. I'd be really, really excited about doing that. I think it's not cheap, though, to get there. Mark Stang asks, what warnings/advice are you giving Dan Hughes about the retreat? Mark, as you can probably guess, the amount of potential ammunition I have to annoy, anger, frustrate Dan about this by giving him false, misleading information is just a treasure trove. So I have got a whole bunch of things in mind to kind of build things up to Dan and then let him figure these things out for himself. Joking aside, no, I think that Dan has a pretty good idea of what the retreat's going to be about. I'm excited about seeing him again in person. It's been too long, and I think you're going to the retreat, Mark, and if so, the three of us need to get a game in. But I've just been what I've been doing is trying to figure out what maybe to show him outside of the retreat in the Miami area, because he's never been to Miami, and I know that he'd like to kind of see some of that stuff. So that's really more what I'm focusing on. Although I am very much looking forward to it. Seeing a lot of fantastic people again, you among them, Mark. Bruce, this is cruel. Any podcast you think should win the Golden Geek this year? Look, this is a tough question. Number one, because my podcast is nominated, and so, look, I have a particular affinity for what Dan and I do. I know it is not for everybody, but we also have a lot of friends whose podcasts are up for the Golden Geek this year. Almost all of them are friends of ours. The Board Game Barrage crew is nominated. The Board Game Snobs are nominated. And now I've started down this road. I'm going to forget, people, but that I apologize in advance for that. But Liz, her Beyond Solitaire is nominated, and Crystal and Amby from Board Game Blitz, and This Game is Broken, and these are all friends. So it's going to be tough. I'd love for us all to win. Mostly me. Mac Voyager, Mike, can we get more live playthroughs of you playing solo board games? Yes, indeed you can. As a matter of fact, that was a stretch goal for this year's Kickstarter. It was a live playthrough show. And so that is in the imminent future is going to be a regular show where I'm doing live solo playthroughs of games. Aaron Clark, are you still planning to rank review all the unsettled planets? Are you waiting for the new ones to arrive before doing so? I'm planning on it. Do I know if I want to wait for the new ones or not? My guess is it's probably best not to, but I want to make sure that I've played through them all enough that I feel like I can talk, although I'm not going to be going into tremendous detail about all of them. But thanks for reminding me, Aaron. That's something I really wanted to get in on soon. This is a very, very interesting question, Nick. When it comes to coffee mugs, do you hold them by the handle in your right or left hand? And is the artwork on the mug still visible to you when you sip your beverage? I have a lefty mug. So this question is multifaceted, Nick. First of all, I guess I always assumed that when you drink out of a coffee mug that has some type of a logo on it, that logo is meant to face outwards. But now, maybe I've been wrong all this time. Is it supposed to be something that you look at while you're drinking the coffee? Or is it supposed to be for the benefit of others around you to know what it is you are endorsing implicitly through the drinking of this beverage? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. The answer to this question is that when I drink out of a mug, I use my left hand pretty much exclusively. I'm sure I've tried, but it just feels off. I think because I'm a lefty. And you may know that, Nick, as well as you apparently. But I don't know about the logo thing. That throws me off. Honestly, when I drink, here we go with the honestly thing again. I've been lying to you. Whenever I don't say honestly, I'm lying. That's not true. My current coffee vessel of choice, it is handleless. It's one of those kind of metal insulated mugs. So I don't use a handle at all right now. Did you guys finally get your X-Men United pledges? No, we didn't. No, we didn't. I did get my playmat yesterday. Charlie Olson, greetings, Mike, or hi, Mike, greetings from Sweden. Yes, I'd love to go to Sweden someday, Charlie. I own and have played Onirim a ton. I'm looking for a new solo game to take it to the next level. What do you recommend? Maybe something like Coffee Roaster would be a good one. It's not that much more complex than Onirim, but I think that there's more decisions to be made there. It's kind of a solo bag pulling game. And it's also relatively small. It's not like a huge, grandiose product, similar to Onirim in kind of like product size. So that would be something I would think about, maybe. Brent Kamara, hey Mike, seems like your Dice Tower solo reviews aren't showing up much these days. Is there a plan to ramp those up again? There's no grand scheme to this. This is just one of those things where recently the games that I've been reviewing have been ones that have been multiplayer games. I'm not abandoning solo reviews by any means, but you are right. There's been fewer of them lately. But there's no particular reason behind that. It's just been that's been more of the games that I've been playing lately and have been up for review. So I'll still keep those solo reviews coming. Make no mistake about that. Enderwolf says, funny that the first time I heard about Reiner Knizia was because of a Nintendo DS game and not board games. I'm betting you mean those brains puzzles, which actually there are analog versions of those games, by the way, those brains puzzles. But yeah, I'll tell you many Reiner Knizia games I've only played as apps. So I hear you there. Stellaris, what do you think of the solo mode for Castles of Burgundy included in the 20th anniversary edition? I don't know that I was even aware that was going to be a part of it, but sure, I'd check it out. Castles of Burgundy is a game that I like, don't love, but I think a solo variant could work for that. I mean, why not, right? Sure, I would definitely try that. It may actually make me want to play the game more because it's not a game that I consider very often, really. Just discovered Sporadically Bored, and I've really enjoyed them. Thank you. Thank you for listening, and I apologize. Any chance of playing a game with both you and Dan at this year's retreat? I mean, there's definitely a chance. I mean, I don't want to speak for Dan, and I can never make promises, but the retreat is the one kind of event that you're more likely to be able to play a game with somebody than any, because that's really what that's about. It's just really about getting together, playing games. We don't tend to have a lot of other responsibilities as Dice Tower staff at the retreats, so that's usually the best place to play games with us. So. Are there any fast food chains from the West Coast that you've missed since moving to Florida? I mean, the standard thing is In-N-Out Burger. I know that now there's this pushback, because I do agree that people go a little bit too crazy about In-N-Out Burger, but I really did like In-N-Out Burger, and so I miss those. Maybe Tommy Burger also, if they even still have them out there. I don't even know if they still have Tommy Burger in California. Maybe Der Wiener Schnitzel, believe it or not. I'm not a big hot dog guy, but I did like Der Wiener Schnitzel every so often. Is Solo Cloudspire worth your time? It is, if you're willing to put in the time to learn it, because it's got a significant learning curve. But the Solo, there's a tremendous amount of Solo content for it. So yes, there's an entire book of Solo for all of the different factions. So yes, it's very much worth your time if the game appeals to you and you're willing to take the time to learn it. BN, hi Mike, are you looking forward to the upcoming Garphill solo-only game, Legacy of You? I've been lucky enough to play test it and it's shaping up to be excellent. If I were doing a top 10 anticipated games list, it would be on there. Really, really excited about it. I mean, you talk about buzzwords for me, Shem from Garphill, solo campaign game. I'm 100% in on this. I'm very, very, very excited and looking forward to it. Mac asks, have you played the Great Wall board game? I have not. This is one that I really want to get played. Tom has played it. Maybe he'll teach me. What do you think about the second edition reprint? I think it's good. I mean, if there's a demand for it, why not? Other than, again, these shipping things. What do you think the best social deduction game is? I like Werewolf and the Resistance, but those seem dated. I like Deception, Murder in Hong Kong, probably. I know that's, I've mentioned that game a lot. You know what game I played recently that I really kind of liked was Night of the Ninja. That was really good. So maybe that one. Nick was at the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk this weekend. There you go. Also, fun fact, the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk was what you see. Remember that old vampire movie, Lost Boys, with Kiefer Sutherland? That beginning sequence where the camera's flying over this boardwalk, that's the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. Oh my gosh, people are still talking about that show. I'm so far back. Will you be in the review for Wonderland's War? If not, thoughts? I don't believe so. I think that is one that Tom is doing on his own. Short version, I like it. I like it quite a bit. I think it's pretty slick. I think it's maybe a little long. That might go down if everybody at the table has played it a number of times, but that's the biggest negative I can give it, is that maybe a bit long, but I like it. I think it's really pretty slick. Can't forget Berkeley being a good place for concerts. That's very true. I saw Firehose at what was the name of that little place? There was a little place in Berkeley. Can't remember. But yeah, Berkeley also had some really good shows come through. Especially like the punk shows that I was going to for most. Hearing you lived in the Bay Area reminds you also mentioned living in New York, now in Southern Florida. Yeah, I've lived in a number of places, so In California, I've kind of gone all along. Most of the time in California, Southern California, North Hollywood, San Fernando Valley area. I lived in Bakersfield for a little while. Then I lived in Santa Cruz and in that general region. I also lived in, as you mentioned, New York briefly, in New Rochelle. And then I also actually lived in Greenwich, Connecticut, but just on the other side of Port Chester. I lived in Las Vegas for a period of time. I lived in Indiana for a number of years, and now in Florida. So where were your favorite places? It's really hard to say. I mean, Southern California, with as many issues as it has, and it has a lot of issues, still, for a weird reason, feels almost like home. It feels very familiar, even though it's been years since I've been there. It still feels familiar. It has a lot of just landmarks that are sentimental to me. I loved Santa Cruz, absolutely adored Santa Cruz, but it's so expensive. I mean, it's outrageously expensive to live there. And so, yeah, but I also like the Pacific Northwest a whole lot. Also expensive. Brian, I'm probably wrong, but I don't ever remember seeing a Too Many Bones review from Dice Tower. I believe, I could be wrong here, but I believe Liz Davidson might have done some. I thought she did some content for the Dice Tower over Too Many Bones. I have to go back and look, though. Are there plans to have a Burn Cycle review? Yes. Short answer is yes. I've played it, and if nothing else, I'll review it. But that may turn into a different type of review if more people play it. Man, I'm so far behind, I think. Do you prefer learning rules for a new game from a teacher or everyone reading the rules together? Probably from a teacher, as long as they know the game and they're a good rules teacher. And that's, I'm not saying that to be mean, but not everybody is good at teaching how to play games. Even if they know the game well, that's a skill. I mean, some people are really good at teaching games. And I guess it depends. So if there's a good teacher, that would be my preference. If not, maybe the rule book or a video or something along those lines. Yeah, Chris, you might want to get on that list. Let's get going here. There are a lot of I's in your name, Matt says. Have you ever considered changing your solo reviews to be called the I Team? I have not considered that. But yes, there are a lot of I's in my name. That's the Italian. If it was DE, I would have been Spanish. Does Dan know how to play games? I'll just leave that unanswered. Okay. Hey Mike, I know you're not a huge Marvel fan. Personally, I'm burned out. Are there any Marvel games that are worth a play and aren't too Marvel-y? Yeah, so the thing is, I think compared to this group here at the Dice Tower, I am not a huge Marvel fan. I am probably, maybe, I don't know, I'm not sure how big of a Marvel fan Camilla and Wendy are. So I don't want to, I don't know, but at least as far as like Chris and Roy and Tom and Z, I am less entrenched in that intellectual property, and maybe less so than Camilla or Wendy. I'm not honestly sure there. But that said, I do like a lot of it. Now, I do think, yes, there are too many Marvel games out right now, but there are too many of a lot of different type of games out right now. I do like the Marvel version of Love Letter. I think that does a cool little twist on it, and it's not too marvelly. Unfortunately, the one that I would recommend the most is the one that I hesitate the most to recommend because it's very hard to get a hold of right now, and that is Comic Hunters, because that's a legitimately spectacular game. It works really well with the Marvel theme because it's about collecting comic books. But again, I feel so bad about mentioning that because I feel like it's coming across that I keep pushing this game that's very hard to get, but it's somewhat public knowledge that American publishers are working on getting, at least one American publisher is working on getting it brought over to this region. And so I really hope that happens because it is a fantastic game. Let's see. Will there be a Gen Con most anticipated this year? There hasn't been one for the last 2 years for obvious reasons. I don't know. It's a good question. I'll have to ask Tom about that. I'm not sure. Are you excited for the new expansions for Dwellings of Eldervale? Cautiously, yes. I've got this weird thing, Mac, and others, where sometimes I have this almost instinctual pushback on expansions for games that I really love because I'm like, okay, well, are they going to mess with it? Are they going to dilute what I love about this game so much? Is it going to detract from the core experience? Now, that hasn't usually been the case, but I don't know why. I still, part of me just kind of like, oh, I hope this doesn't mess anything up. But I have a pretty good faith that they're gonna, if the same team is involved, Luke Laurie, the designer, and if Peter Vaughn is still involved with the development end of things, if that's the case, I'm optimistic. Let me take a look. Someone talking about a horrific prairie dog incident at a Long John Silver's. I've got thoughts about Long John Silver's, but I don't have time to go into it other than I've never ever been into a fast food restaurant where it has more felt like you are walking into a literal deep fryer. You are just assaulted with the smell of fried fish as you walk into a Long John Silver's. It is overwhelming, that immense, it's like a physical presence. And when I walk out, I feel like I need to scrape the grease off of me. But anyway. Oh, good. Tommy Burgers is still around. Nice. This is a good question. If you had to, they've all been good questions, by the way. If you had to reinvent yourself from the solo guy to something new at the Dice Tower, what would you be? I don't think that's for me to decide. I suppose I'm the solo guy because that's really what I've done a lot of content about, but I don't consider myself the solo guy specifically, other than there are a lot of people that have expressed appreciation that I cover a lot of solo games. And so I try to be mindful of that. But I don't know. I'm not sure. I kind of feel like that's for other people to decide. Dear Earthling is now going to Wiener Schnitzel for lunch. You're welcome. People talking about Fat Burger. I did like Fat Burger. Root expansion is awesome. Hope you all review it. I just got my Root expansion late last week. So I'm looking forward to kind of going into that. I did unboxings for it. They haven't gone up yet, but yeah, I'm very, very much excited about the 2 new factions, about what the hirelings are going to add. I got the new set of mechanical, the bots, so you can play more of the faction solo. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that as well. Carl's Jr. Well, the thing is that Carl's Jr. is outside of the West Coast, but they call it Hardee's. So when I moved to Indiana and I saw a Hardee's, I'm like, that looks like a Carl's Jr. It had the same star logo, and sure enough, they have basically the same menu. And so I started calling it Stardee's. But anyway. You lived in Indiana? Where at? In the Hoosier State? Yeah, I'm an IU alum. I lived in Bloomington for a number of years, and then I moved to Indianapolis. I moved to Florida from Indianapolis. So I spent many years at Indiana. Like I said, graduated from Indiana University, Bloomington. I taught high school for almost 20 years in Mooresville, Indiana. So I do have some Indiana connections very much. All right, do I want to try to get one or two more questions in here, folks? What do we think? What do we think? Any chance we'll see a full beard on you anytime soon? No, probably not. I don't think I can grow it. It gets real patchy and looks very disheartening and frightening. Okay, here we go. Do I have so many? You start talking about food and the chat it's just gone. They go full on into. Daniel, this is a great question. When are you going to play Lord of the Rings: The Confrontation? It is seriously one of the best 1v1 games of all time. This is probably in my top 5 games I need to play. And I know Tom will teach me because he very much is a fan of it. And I was very disheartened when we did our top 100 Knizia games list, and I couldn't consider it because I hadn't played it. I want to play it very much. Let me see if I can find one more question. Approximately how many games are in your home collection of games? Does collecting outweigh practicality for you with your games? I'm going to end with this question. It's a good one, Steve. My guess, and it's only a guess because I have not done an inventory of my games at home anytime recently. My guess is I have probably somewhere in the range of 250 games, 300, somewhere in that range. Scaled down considerably. I had a lot more than that when I lived in Indiana, and I pared down probably more than half of my collection before moving to Florida for a number of reasons. That being said, I am a collector. For better or for worse, value judgments be whatever they may be, I am a collector, and I have been as long as I can remember. When I was working in a music store, I collected music. CDs primarily. That was mostly what I collected at that time. I had literally thousands of CDs, and I enjoyed the aspect of the liner notes and reading those and cataloging them and kind of curating my collection. And it's similar with board games. Now, I understand that there are some reasons why collecting board games can be a problem. I like to think that I have never allowed my board game collecting, that aspect of the hobby, to be one that has impacted my life in a negative way. I hope that's true. But there can be a little bit of collection shaming that goes on, I think, and it goes both ways, honestly. If people only have 10, 15 games in their collection, there's this whole, oh, you're not really a gamer, which is balderdash. But also, people that like to collect games can sometimes get some backlash because it's like, oh, you're not even playing all these, and well, yeah. And sometimes it can be unhealthy, and that is something that you have to kind of look inward and try to be honest with yourself and be self-aware. But collecting, does it outweigh practicality for you? Not yet, but I have to be very conscious of it. What I am planning on doing is trying to take more of a, if not quite a one in, one out type of a philosophy, then getting pretty close. I do know that I'm going to be probably getting rid of a number of games at Dice Tower East or Dice Tower Con now. So yeah, there's quite a number of games that I am looking to kind of offload here soon. So I hope it has not outweighed the the practicality yet, but it is a risk. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, it is, according to my clock, 1:05 in the afternoon, and as much as I would love to stay and chat with you guys longer, I got stuff to do. I've got to get going on that top 100. I've got to keep that rocking and rolling. There is also more live content today. Not for me, but Tom and Eric are going to be doing their At the Table. I believe that is at 3 p.m. today, and they have a fantastic guest, one Mr. Ben Maddox, and I'm really glad that I thought of this. I'm really glad I brought this up, because Ben is not only a fantastic guest, I'm sure he'll be a fantastic guest, he is also the host of a wonderful podcast called 5 Games for Doomsday. And so when I was mentioning podcasts that are nominated this year for Golden Geek, 5 Games for Doomsday is also nominated, and he is also a friend of mine, and that's also a fantastic podcast. So if you want to vote for that as number 2 or 3 behind Sporadically Bored, then I fully endorse that as well. But I'm sure Ben will be a fantastic guest, and you should all check that out if you have a chance today at 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for all of your fantastic comments. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for all of the kindness that you show me, not just today, but all the time. It has been a pleasure. And until next time, this is Dice Tower. This is Mike DiLisio signing off from Dice Tower headquarters.